Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining me for a very special Friday edition of Stay Free with Russell Brand. We've got a brilliant conversation with RFK, Bobby Kennedy, the man who's changed the complexion of the election. How can you maintain that voting for the Democratic Party is anything other than a vote for the establishment now that Tulsi Gabbard and Bobby Kennedy have joined the Trump campaign? Let me know in the comments and chat if you agree with me that this is an opportunity to disrupt the bizarre teleology of the beast, the serpent that has its sights set upon the whole world, this odd creature, this peculiar entity that seems set to devour us all. What's it going to take to oppose it? Unique alliances, and we want you to be a part of that unique alliance. That's why we are launching Break Bread with Russell Brand. That's starting from the week of the 18th, a live conversation on locals that you will love, where we're going to pray together, meditate together, ask the difficult questions about God, and ask the difficult questions about revolution and revelation simultaneously. The first episode available for Awaken Wonders is with Tucker Carlson. You're going to love that conversation. It's absolutely magnificent, fantastic. You are going to enjoy his Tucker like you've never seen him before. And remember, our conversation with Jordan Peterson is up now. This is Friday. You can go and look. Don't do it now. Watch this show. It's fantastic. Bobby Kennedy's coming up in a minute. But you can see me and Jordan Peterson talking about Christ, Christianity, and what the archetypes are behind this current moment where wherever you are in the world, there appears to be a conflict between nationalism and globalism. Is it possible for nationalism to become inclusive? Is it possible that it could become the fulcrum of new conditions of subsidiarity, where we have new broken down, I don't want to say Soviets, that's not a good word, communities that are fully autonomous, self-governing through electoral democracy? Can we change the world together? And are we at a pivotal moment? Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. For the first 15 minutes, we're going to be available on YouTube, but we can't stay there, for it is one of the heads of the beast. If you studied Revelations hard enough, you'd see the word alphabet or Google or YouTube in there somewhere for these omniscient, omnipotent organisations that censor and surveil according to their agenda are very much a part of the challenge that we are facing together. Got a few things that I want to pick up on. Did you see Joe Rogan and Callie Means talking about the trivialization of this election campaign when it's obviously super significant? Let me know what you think about this in the Awaken Wonder chat. Let me know if you're watching us on Rumble right now. Even if you're watching us on YouTube, where you better turn on the notification bell, you just won't know what we're doing. You've got to let me know what you think about the trivialization of this election and the constant recourse to the idea that somehow what we're dealing with is a Nazi Donald Trump. Is that what nationalism means these days? A return to fascism and nationalism? Let me know in the chat. Is it possible to love your country and not be a racist? Is it possible that people from a variety of cultures and racial backgrounds can come together to oppose globalization? That is the question that I believe we're being asked in this, in this election. And my prayer is that it is possible, of course. That's why we're devoted to having conversations that educate us. That's why we're doing the Oracle series that's only available on Locals. Episode 1, we talked about the pandemic with brilliant experts like Robert Malone and Pierre Corey. And episode 2, Mike Benz got together with Kim Iverson and Max Blumenthal to talk about the nature of the state and the deep state, and war. You will love that conversation. There's a link in the description telling you how you can watch that Oracle season right now. But first of all, let's have a look at this. The trivialization and the accusations of Nazism that have surrounded Trump since he came down the old golden escalator. Is it true? Is he a fascist? Is he a retro Hitler? Or is he really a bull in the china shop of globalism, preventing them from pursuing their agenda? I'm still trying to work it out myself in the midst of a hurricane.
Is that we have long known that Donald Trump has revered the Nazis. He has revered Hitler.
Revered them. Revered them. I wonder what the claim is there. Like what the basis for that claim is. Like to revere the Nazis. There's no way you can revere the Nazis. It was a dismal, murderous and insane project.
He's read his book. He used to say he had it on his nightstand. Donald Trump has had a very sinister philosophy, wanting to be a dictator, absolutely dividing people up based on who they are, based on factors about them that have to do with their race and their gender, etc. And when he uses language like this, I don't think that it's a Freudian slip. I think that the danger of a Donald Trump is that he would absolutely try to exterminate an entire group of people because he thinks that their genes are somehow different than his and faulty. And I say this with all the sternness that you hear in my voice.
That's so weird. They've gone so far with that idea. What has he done? That's so mad. Did he say that? Has he actually said that? It's so extraordinary. On one hand, there's the absolute trivialization of this election campaign, mad little anecdotes, stupid, dumb stories. And on the other hand, there's this kind of reprehensible escalation of the threat of ultimately an independent libertarian politician couched within the post-Tea Party Republican movement, forming alliances with other independents like Tulsi Gabbard and Bobby Kennedy, which is obviously a disruption to the bureaucratic globalism that's been defining politics from Clinton onwards or Blair onwards in my country, that was not interrupted by a Bush administration or successive conservative governments in my country. That's what the uniparty means. That's what globalism means. That's what globalism wants. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and chat? Remember, if you're still watching us on YouTube, turn on that notification bell. There's no way you'll get access to this content otherwise. Just to give you a point around the trivialization of this thing, this is a moment on Colbert. You surely saw it the other day, where they sort of try and act like they're sort of gun-toting guys. Check.
When you first became the nominee and named Tim Walz as your...
Oh, yeah, this is the bit where they're sort of talking about beer and stuff. But, yeah, have you heard some of the crazy stuff? I've got a gun, I drink beer.
Your vice president nominee, people were calling it the vibe election. All the vibes were all good. But elections, I think, are won on vibes because one of the old saws is they just want somebody they can have a beer with. So would you like to have a beer with me so I can tell people what that's like?
Filthy propaganda!
Okay.
Don't do it! Don't do it! Think of your integrity. Think of the middle-class girl that you once were with aspirations and ideals. Think about God. Think about truth. Don't pretend to have a beer with Stephen Colbert. Don't pretend to participate in this giddy spectacle I've seen inside of it. I've seen inside that spectacle. I've been on those shows. Stephen Colbert, he's a Catholic. He's a good man. I'm sure. I'm convinced of it. But you know what it's like when you're in the insidious tendrils of that beast. That machine is giving you money. You have to believe what it believes. Otherwise, you'd have to break away, become independent, oppose the machine, believe in people, believe in the power of transcendence. It's a tough gig.
Now, we asked ahead of time because I can't just be giving a drink to the Vice President of the United States without asking. You asked for Miller High Life. You asked Miller High Life.
What do you think we should have? Say Miller High Life because it's appealing to this blue-collar demographic. Stuff went on.
I'm just curious.
Okay, the last time I had...
Oh, no, she can't open it. I hope she's not like that with that handgun she's revealed she owns on Oprah. Wait a minute, I'll shoot you right out of the coconut.
Beer was at a baseball game with Doug.
So cheers.
Cheers.
There you go.
Now I can do this. I can be normal. I'll just have a drinky of the old normalcy. Here we go. I'm a regular person. I can bloody well do this. Put that in there. Go baseball! That's just a regular presidential candidate there. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's being accused of being a Nazi. Meanwhile, we hover on the precipice through giddy brinkmanship, teetering on a preposterous apocalypse.
Ooh. That tastes like the beautiful city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
The champagne of beers.
There you go.
What a terrifying spectacle it is indeed. And spectacle is the right word. You'll be familiar, of course, with the work of Guy Debord, who said that what we're living in is a sort of a set of illusions anymore, that you can't feel reality or truth. Can't feel a visceral or spiritual truth because they're masking that, they're changing it. Here's a conversation between Callie Means and Joe Rogan. This is all before we get to Bobby Kennedy, by the way. This conversation with RFK is amazing because I believe what I love about RFK, this is authentic. Have a look at this conversation between Callie Means, who's done more than anyone to help us understand the horrors of big food and how big food, in a sense, tee you up for big pharma, and Joe Rogan, who's done more for independent media than Joe Rogan. Anyway, in this conversation between these two, I would argue brilliant men, we get an insight into the trivialization of the electoral campaign while we hover dangerously close to personal and maybe even global death.
Trump wants this to be a generational issue for him. And I just want to say something. I think we're at a big moment here. We're debating trivia. Like, I think the two most existential issues are nuclear war or what's happening to our health. And whatever you think, and I used to be a never Trumper. watching him care about this issue, watching what's happening with the RFK, watching what's happening of how that's resonating with voters.
I posted the other day on X how many people that have never dreamed they would vote Republican are considering it, just because of the fear and threat of globalism and because of the mad masquerade we're watching unfold. What the hell happened with Joe Biden? What's he doing now? How did Kamala Harris become the candidate? What's going on with Nancy Pelosi? How's she making all of this money? What is Tim Walz? What is he even? Why does he look like that? They can't form another government, can they? Of course they can't. The reason that they seem so peculiarly powerless, odd vassals and empty ciphers is because the power is coming from somewhere else. You recognise that, don't you? You know that this is spiritual warfare. It's not the first time you've heard that phrase. You're hearing it all over the place, aren't you? You're sensing it yourself. You're feeling it. Let me tell you live from the middle of a hurricane before we get into this RFK interview that this is a spiritual moment. This is an opportunity, I believe, to change course. I'm not saying that Bobby Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy are going to bring anything like perfection, but at least there are people that are explicit and open, believe in free speech, care about health, and generally speaking are anti-war, and I pray that it can become total anti-war as the total policy for that new movement. It's got to be better than the sort of sub-3, like the three-letter agencies below them, FBI, CIA. They're not going to be marshaled, reined in under a Kamala Harris presidency, and the bizarre bureaucracies above them, I'm talking about globalist bureaucracies, specifically NATO, WHO, WEF, they're not going to be opposed by that Democratic Party movement. Think about the pandemic. They're part of the confluence of that funnel of dark power. That's just what I think, though, of course. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat.
Seeing Smalley, from my small vantage point inside, there is tremendous connection of these two men and moral clarity of seeing what's happening. And my question is this, and to anyone kind of considering voting in this election, Trump is going to say stupid shit. He is Trump. We know who he is. There's two important questions to ask. Who sees this corruption and institutional capture that's going to destroy our country, I think, to an existential level? And who is willing to suffer that blowback? Who is willing to go up against these military-industrial complex, the healthcare-industrial complex, the education-industrial complex that's making us a non-competitive? Like, they are ready. Who is going to appoint? This is a question I have. Who do we believe is going to appoint people like RFK, people like Elon Musk, to stir stuff up? Who is going to do that? Like, that to me is the foundational question. And I do consider this the most important election of my lifetime, watching these two men, because it is so genuine. And there is like a genuine desire to truly transform, to see our broken corruption and institutions for what it is. And really, truly, I think prevent nuclear war and dramatically reverse our health crisis. Trump has said that his one big mistake last time was personnel, was that the pharma and the ag slithered in and gave him the list of names. Everybody should ask, do you think RFK is going to have an influence on those names based on what Trump has said? And I think he is. And I think people like Elon are going to be involved. I think there's this coalition of people that are coming together and Trump's going to put in power and listen to. And this is a bipartisan issue. And no matter what happens, we have to solve this issue. But I will say this so clearly with the most conviction I can. We will be on the verge, I think, of a health population collapse, societally destabilizing event, unless true executive leadership sees this corruption and this issue for what it is and says we need a radical transformation in how we see agriculture and how we see health, our two largest industries. I think we have to have that. And every single member of Congress I meet with, including Democrats, say that in order for this issue to get done, we need a president to make this the priority to talk, because that gives us air cover and there could be transformational change if a president does that. So that's what I've seen from being in this. And I can tell you, President Trump has kept every promise to RFK and deeply cares about this issue.
Well, that just seems like common sense, doesn't it? A matter of prioritization. On the brink of war, you need to reevaluate and reassess your position and your conditions. I believe this is a pivotal moment. I believe this is a pivotal moment for all of us individually and, of course, for us collectively. And as I've said many times, the reason that I feel optimistic about this election, more than I have for a long while really, is precisely because Bobby Kennedy is someone that I know personally. I know him to be authentic, a man of integrity, and I can tell you this, if the Democratic Party hadn't become a hollowed out vassal for corporatist, globalist and deep state power, they would have made that dude their nominee. That's what he wanted. He was an anti-establishment candidate like Bernie Sanders was way back in 2016. I know, I can hear you. I don't even need to read the comments, although I appreciate you getting into those comments. I really do. You better believe that. What I'm telling you is anti-establishment, anti-big business, anti-corporatism, anti-globalist candidates can come from all over the place. As long as they're not talking about centralizing the power of the state, facilitating the power of corporatism to the degree where it becomes globalist power, i.e. corporations are transcendent and big enough to maneuver and control whole nations. And if you want an example of that, look at the Ukraine-Russia war and look at who's benefiting from that. Look at Halliburton's role in it. Look at BlackRock's role in it. Look at where power might truly lie. If you want to oppose that, you've got to start thinking independently. If you want to oppose that, you've got to start thinking spiritually. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and chat? If you're watching this on YouTube, turn on the notification bell. It's the only way they're ever going to let you know that we're here, because they're part of this globalist machine. That's why there's antitrust lawsuits going on all over the place. They have to strangle true free voices and thinkers like you. Okay, guys, now I'm so excited to introduce our guest today. Bobby Kennedy, I believe, has the power to change the course of history, certainly when it comes to this election, and this is the most candid conversation I've ever had with him. You will enjoy it. Stay with us to the very end. See you in a second. Bobby, thanks so much for joining me for Stay Free with Russell Brand.
I'm so happy to be here with you, Russell, as always.
I want to thank you personally, I suppose, because I'm convinced that we are in a pivotal moment, that totalitarianism now is veiled. And